Quiet in the back. Hey,
All right, guys, here we are on location in New Orleans for this week's Ask Ron.
Nolans.
Is it New Orleans or New Orleans?
Yeah,
You gotta say Nolans. like
Nolans.
it's kind of an odd accent here, but it's different.
Oh, that cake that Nikki bought. Oh, what was that?
Yes, we've been eating king cake because it's getting close
king
to
cake.
Mardi Gras.
And the nickname for this city is the Big Easy.
Okay, so let's get on to the question. Guess who has the first question? Mary Ann from Nunez.
Surprise.
Shocker.
Hi, Mary Ann. And Mary Ann asks, if the seller is willing to do good terms over the phone and we set an appointment to meet them at the house, I think I heard you say that you no longer want us to ask seller over the phone, how long will they give us to pay them off in full? We should ask them when we meet them at the house so we can explain what caused the change.
Well, I say that unless they bring it up, then you have to answer it. And the answer would be, well, we've gotten as long as 30 years. What's as long as you can give us? Then you work your way down. I don't like to bring it up front because I don't address it until I'm filling out the contract, unless they bring it up first, and quite often they will. Frankly, the less you bring up before you go to the house, the better. You can take care of it face to face. You got a better relationship.
A lot of times you don't want to give them reasons to say no. And if you push too hard on that 30 years, you want to approach it that way. But if you're already in their house, they can't hang up on you.
Yeah.
You're sitting there right in front of them.
So, Mary Ann, do what's best for you.
Okay, question number 2 is from Damion in Maryland.
Damian?
Hi, Damian.
Okay, he has an example of a deal, so listen closely. Example question for lease option deal. ARV is $500,000. Loan balance is $475,000. Lease option sales price from seller to me is $485,000. I sell on a lease option to my tenant buyer for $510,000. The tenant buyer is willing to pay a $50,000 option deposit.
Got it.
Of course, I would pocket the $25,000, which is the difference between my sales price to the tenant buyer and what I owe the seller. What happens with the other $25,000 of the tenant buyer's option deposit?
Go ahead, honey.
Well, you should actually save that money just in case your person cashes you out. It's unlikely that they're going to cash out that first year, but if you don't have that money and bring it back into closing, you're going to be short at closing and you won't be able to close. And they get the right to that money.
And Damian, that means you put it in another bank account. It is not your money. And if you're married, make sure your wife and you sign both on it to get any money out. That way she can trust you won't be siphoning that money out of that account.
Yes.
Because money needs to stay in that account until that buyer defaults. And of course, like he said, if they close, you got to bring some money to closing. But good news is your loan to the seller is going down every month. So it might not ever be you ever need that money. But I got a bigger question for you because something bothers me about what I heard. How can they owe $475 if it's only worth $500? That's not any loan I've ever seen. I think it's worth more than $500, and you've grossly underestimated the ARV. You better get some help determining what that true ARV is before you put this thing on the market. You might get a nice surprise.
That's true.
Also, if you're buying it for $485 and they owe $475, there's a thing called cash to mortgage where sometimes you just want them gone.
Yeah, give them a few bucks and just come make their payment for them and get them out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is from Raymond in North Carolina.
Hi, Raymond.
How do you take down payment option deposit before you close and obtain ownership? My biggest worry is having to come up with a down payment and closing costs. But I heard Ron say he used buyer's funds, but I don't have a clear understanding as to how.
That's why you should be at this quick start real estate school that we're at right now, okay? Because that is a dangerous thing if you don't clearly understand it. I think you said you have it under contract. You better not even be looking for a buyer if you don't have it under contract. And now you got to close it simultaneously. You cannot put a lease option tenant buyer in a house that you haven't even solidified with your seller yet. You got to close it simultaneously. So if you owed a seller money and you promised you're going to give it to them, you should pay them the same day that you put the tenant buyer in there and let an attorney handle it. So the attorney has both agreements. let him handle it, let him send the cash to the seller that the seller's required, and make it sure it's done properly. That way you can collect buyer's money and pay seller at the same time.
And you
That makes
find
sense?
that buyer, yeah, you find the buyer prior to closing with the seller, so the buyer brings in the money that you would need to cover the closing costs or any small amount of money that the seller may
You
need
must
down.
make sure that the seller is clear on what you're doing. No secrets.
Okay, Raymond has a second question. Raymond says, I do RVM and SMS for my wholesale business. Is it a good idea to drop RVM for failed listings?
As soon as somebody tells me what RV
I was hoping you guys,
It's a couple of services.
I don't know.
It's probably a couple of pay apps and a way to find leads, and most of those are lead
I have
services.
no idea.
I've
Yeah.
never heard.
If
Okay,
it's producing, well, there's another one like Fast Home Offers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
People say
That's
FHO
true.
sometimes, so that's one. But any one of those services, if it's not producing, stop doing it. All
Yeah.
marketing is trial and error. If something works, keep doing it. If something's not
That's
working,
correct.
stop doing it.
It's the smartest thing you've said all day.
okay, now we have a very interesting question from Adam in Nebraska.
Adam.
Ron, this will help. You're going to have to do some reminiscing here. Are you ready?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. What is the most creative or memorable single-family house deal you have done to date, and why did that one stand out to you?
Gee whiz.
Maybe the one with the naked people?
I've done about 3,000 houses. You expect me to remember that? I don't know.
Well, is there anything interesting that stood out to you?
Well,
Maybe go back 6 months.
nothing interesting in the last 6 months.
One popped up recently for us, and it was one that we bought when we met Ron, and we never would have known these concepts or these strategies. Ron taught us these strategies. We bought this house on a wrap, and it was no money down, and we just sold it after like 16, 17 years, and we got a check for $278,000 about 6
So
months
you
ago.
got a check for more than you paid for it.
Yes.
That's right.
No, but what about the deal you guys did where you got the Mustang car?
Oh,
That was
yeah,
memorable.
that was a good one.
Yeah, that was the deal we did at an event in
That's
Phoenix,
right.
and we brought the
Yeah.
Mustang to the
Gave it
Yeah.
to me and I gave it back to him. I ain't driving this thing.
Yeah, but that's memorable, right?
Yeah, you know what?
I remember one.
Okay, yay.
I bought this house one time, it had 3,000 square feet in it. The whole center of the roof was caved in. Rocks were running off the roof and in the living room. These people were living around this mess.
Wow.
This house stunk. And I asked the guy one time, why did you let this house get in this condition? He says, because when I bought it, the roof was leaking and the bank would not do anything about it.
So it's gonna prove the
Exactly
bank.
what he said.
Oh,
So he
no.
just let it get worse and worse and worse and
The
worse.
bank didn't have to live in that house.
Yeah, like it's a bank's problem.
All right, well, thank you, Adam. That was
Don't
fun.
do that to me anymore. Don't make me think that hard, man.
Okay, well, that was the last question. So
Good.
do you have something profound to tell?
You have something profound. I've been talking all day. I don't have anything profound.
This has been a wonderful event here in Nolans, and it's the Big Easy, and we try to teach you guys the easy way to do this. There's a lot of hard ways to do real estate. Ron taught us the easy way, and you're making it easy for the seller. There's no easier way to sell your house,
We
so
had 7 deals we had to go over today, didn't we?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Okay.
we're making it easy.
All right. See you next week.
Bye.